And my hypothesis is, if I keep doing what the world and society tells me to do, pretty soon I'm going to be on my deathbed wondering what happened to my life. And I don't want that to happen. I want to tell you about a little experiment between me, about 52 weeks worth of reflection, and ChatGPT. First of all, we're going to go over the idea of values, what they are and why I care about them. Then we're going to talk a little bit about how ChatGPT can help. I'm going to run through how this little experiment went for me, and then we can talk about what the next steps are. So the word values gets thrown around quite a lot. I can say that before I started thinking about my purpose and my direction, I never really thought too much about what values actually meant. There's probably like textbooks written on values and what they are and how to get them and stuff. But for the purpose of this talk, let's just call values the things that you prioritize on at a really deep level. And the idea is that when I understand what I prioritize at a very deep level, I'm living by my own scorecard rather than waiting for someone else to tell me, someone like society, to tell me what to do next. What does it look like when someone doesn't have an internal scorecard? Generally, it's that person that they seem really structured on the outside, like they know what date they want to get married by, they know the date that they want to have 2.5 kids by, they know the date that they want to get divorced by, they know the date that they want to have their rebound marriage by, and so on. When you ask them what's driving all of this, sometimes they'll shrug and they'll say, you know what, I just thought it was time. And for decisions that carry such heavy emotional and financial consequences, it makes sense to me to do a bit more thinking about exactly why are we doing what we're doing. Values can provide that internal scorecard. For example, if I know that one of my values is gratitude, I can think about how much gratitude did I show during this week when I'm reflecting on the week. Based on how much my behavior was aligned with the value of gratitude, I can say, you know what, it was a pretty good week, or it wasn't such a good week. And it provides my life with a more firm basis for satisfaction. And so the bottom line is, why care about values? If you don't know your values, you kind of don't really know yourself. Looking at this quote from Carl Jung, the world will ask you who you are, and if you don't know, the world will tell you. And my hypothesis is, if I keep doing what the world and society tells me to do, without thinking about exactly what makes up a satisfying life for me, then pretty soon I'm going to be on my deathbed wondering what happened to my life. And I don't want that to happen. One of the ways I can extract values is to think about a priority in my life and then keep asking why. For example, I really want to write a book. Why? Because I feel like the knowledge about decision making that I have needs to be shared. Why? And you just keep asking why. And you keep asking why until you come to a theme or a concept that is intrinsically good. So for example, I might keep asking why, and then I'll reach a value that is connection. I want to feel connected to people by giving back. Or it might be something like prestige. I want to feel the prestige of telling people I'm an author or something. But then again, with prestige, you can also probably say, why do you want prestige, and so on. And you can probably unpack more motivations behind that. And so this is meant to be more of a talk about generative AI rather than self-improvement. So now we come to the part where I use generative AI to help me. One of the great things about ChatGPT, but also LLMs generally, is that they can take a whole bunch of seemingly loosely related data points and they can find common structure between them. And here's the way I used it. In my annual review, I had 52 weeks worth of reflection. And in my reflections, I think about my values and think about what made the week satisfying, what were the highlights of the week. So at a very high level, there's a reflection phase. So throughout the year, I've been keeping a track of what makes a day satisfying, what's a highlight. I've got a bunch of these loose data points. So that's the reflection stage. Then in the compressed stage, I feed these data points to ChatGPT and I ask it to consolidate them. And then in the tweak phase, I actually try to live the values. So for example, if my value is camaraderie, I think about what does it mean to live a life of camaraderie. So for example, it might be taking the lead in initiating catch-ups, or it might be an intention to be extra present whenever I'm with someone. When I know what it's like to embody those values, at the end of the week I can think about, okay, so did I converge on those values or did I diverge from them? And so this is essentially taking a look at my week and how did I score on my week? Because my values is my scorecard. And so I'm asking myself, how did you actually do, Joey? Also thinking about whether it was actually a satisfying week or not. So if I scored highly on my values and it wasn't a satisfying week, then it could be the case that the values that I've chosen aren't really the things that make me tick. And so this is where the tweaking comes in. Maybe I can drop a value, or maybe I can define it differently. There's a whole bunch of stuff that is probably out of the scope of the talk, but that's the tweak phase. And so this is what it looks like in practice. So I tell ChatGPT, I'm going to feed you a bunch of highlights and elements that make my day satisfying. From this, I want you to infer and extract my deepest values. How does that sound? So it sounds like fascinating exercise. It's very complimentary. So then in the next one, I fed it a whole bunch of data points. So like having deep conversations with friends, playing multiplayer video games with friends, making some art that I didn't think was possible, having a hard workout, and so on. These are all the things that I find satisfying or make up highlights for my week. And then ChatGPT replies with, from these highlights, it seems like your deepest values revolve around connection, creativity, growth, and mastery. And then it goes on to unpack these a little bit. In the experiment that I ran, this wasn't the actual conversation. I don't actually have that conversation because I ran ChatGPT on private because I didn't want my innermost thoughts and feelings going to the cloud for processing. But you can get the point here. So let's talk about how this actually worked for me. My previous values were mastery, gratitude, curiosity, and kindness. After doing the experiment, ChatGPT spit out a whole bunch of proposed values. I didn't take them all, so let's go through my new set of values. The first one was expansion, which is the idea of going beyond my comfort zone to achieving mastery and growth, and that was recommended by ChatGPT. Movement is something that I proposed, which is the idea of just getting away from my desk and doing things because I love sitting at my computer just hacking away at things, and there's so much more to life than that, and it's all about experiencing beauty away from my desk because there's so much of it. The third one was freedom. So it's basically like a low amount of friction to live how I want to. Camaraderie was something provided by ChatGPT as well, which is cultivating of connections and valuing of time spent with people that are important to me. And kindness is a value that was carried over from the previous set. And my rationale is that I think life is so much better when I'm recognizing all the small acts of kindness that I'm receiving, but also the small acts of kindness that I'm giving to others as well. This was a set of values that I've been playing around with since December last year. And next, I'm going to talk about how this went for me. So generally speaking, it was a pretty good start. I found that on the weeks where I was practicing expansion, movement, camaraderie, I felt like it was a really rich and satisfying week. One value that was it just kind of didn't fit for me was the idea of freedom. And I think that's because my definitions of freedom has changed a little bit over the past 6 months. And I can probably go into that in a different video. It's not quite important here. But over the past couple of weeks, I've decided to drop scoring myself on the value of freedom. And I haven't really noticed too much of a difference in my feelings of satisfaction throughout the week. So it could be the case that wasn't really a resonant value for me. And so I'm just working away with 4 values. There's no magic number for values really. So that little tweak I think has simplified things quite a bit. And I'll say that a big piece to this that I have glossed over a little bit is the review and reflection practice that I've used to gather these data points. You can use your own. I do a weekly practice. I'll send a link to my method in the show description. But a lot of people find it quite intense and heavyweight. Use what works for you. The main thing is just note down, try to be aware during the week or the month. What are the moments where you feel most satisfied? What feels like the highlights of the weeks and the months? And then you can feed those data points to ChatGPT using a similar prompt that I showed you in the previous slide. So in terms of what's next, you can either scan this QR code or click the link in the comments to find all the goodies that I've talked about. I'd also love it if you let me know how it went. You can either comment on this video or get in touch with me. There's a link to my website. And if you found any pain points during the process, I'd love to hear about them. I'm all about trying to make these practices more accessible and easier so that more people can find the joy in living by their own values and rules and scorecards rather than adopting someone else's, sometimes without even thinking about it. So thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you at the next video. Bye now.